In the wake of the 10th century came the birth of a kingdom that would later metamorphose into an empire, and an empire with such an imperial power dispersed throughout much of what is today West Africa, the Great Benin Empire. In its golden years, from the 1300 CE to the 1600 CE, these empires stretched from the Niger Delta area to the eastern part of Ghana with unfathomable military exploits, controlling trade routes and regional politics, covering an estimated landmass of 46,810 square miles. Tag along as we make a walkthrough to uncover the unrivaled exploits the history books is care for us of this people in this part of the world. The Kingdom of Benin, or Great Benin in other use, is a kingdom that has its roots from within what is today southern Nigeria. This Benin has no contextual relation to the modern Republic of Benin, which was known as Dahomey in time past. The imperial capital of the Great Benin Empire was seated at a vast expanse called Edo, now known as Benin City in today's Edo State, Nigeria. This kingdom was one of the oldest and most developed states in the coastal hinterland of West Africa. From living in small family groups, it grew out to become the Kingdom of Igodomigodo, which was ruled by a series of kings called the Igisos, translated as rulers of the sky. And these kings were perceived as having divine rights to rule. By the year 1200 CE, the kingdom was already flourishing. The kingdom prospered from the 1200s to the 1800s CE. In the 15th and 16th centuries, the kingdom reached the heights of its prosperity, expanding its territory, trading with European powers, and creating a remarkable artistic legacy in cast bronze, iron, carved ivory, and other materials. These bronze were so intricately fashioned that the feat was unequaled by any other sub-Saharan African civilization at the time, except the Ife Kingdom. At the height of its glory, Benin ruled over the tribes of the Niger Delta, the Ijos, the Shekiris, Isokos, and Urhobos, including the Western Igbo tribes. It also had sway over the Eastern Yoruba tribes of Ondo, Ekiti, Ugbo, and Ijebu. While this remains a feat remarkable, yet the relationship was far from spiteful, and the people were seen as father and son. At its peak in the 16th century, Benin dominated trade along the entire coastline from the western Niger Delta through Lagos, reaching almost Accra in the west of Africa. By the 16th century, the Ada and Eben were already in use by the Igisos. The Ada and Eben are scepters, though swords in their own right, yet not for war. And this is common in knowledge of the initiates. While the Eben is utterly used for ceremonial purposes, the Ada symbolizes the king's right and power to take human life. Take it or leave it. This symbol is a clear indication of the historical tenacity and traditional uniqueness of the Benin people is made alive. And the architectural style was remarkably magnificent in their own right. And this can be seen in how intricate and detailed these buildings were fashioned. The streets were adorned with lights, and the fashion of oil lamps to illuminate the street at night, a feat so remarkable that no other kingdom at that time could vibrate on the same frequency. The great and famous city walls. This wall has been known to Westerners since around 1500, and it is called the Benin City Walls. Made as a form of a large ditch or moat around the city and imperial palace, respectively or collectively, it surely served well to deter easy infiltration by enemy forces. This rampart highlights the distant military foresight of this great empire at that time. In the words of the Dutch explorer Dirk Curators, at the gate where I entered on a horseback, I saw a very high bulwark, very thick of earth, with a very deep broad ditch, but it was dry and full of high trees. That gate is a reasonable good gate, made of wood in their manner, which is to be shut, and there always there is a watchholder. In another account by Fred Pierce, the extent for some 16,000 km in all, in a mosaic of more than 500 interconnected settlement boundaries. They cover 2,510 square miles, which is 6,500 square kilometers, and were all dug by the Edo people. In all, they are 4 times longer than the Great Wall of China and consumed 100 times more material than the Great Pyramid of Cheops. They took an estimated 150 million hours of digging to construct, and are perhaps the largest single archaeological phenomenon on the planet. The Portuguese were the first to set foot on the lands. They arrived the kingdom in an expedition led by João Afonso de Aveiro in 1485. In the dynastic reign of Eduardo the Great, described as a great warrior and magician. He was credited with vastly expanding the territory of the Benin Kingdom, which by the mid-16th century extended from the Niger River Delta in the east to what is now Lagos in the west. The Yoruba became the supreme political, judicial, economic and spiritual leader of his people. He went further to form a system of government, which would persist for the rest of the duration of the empire. While he and his ancestors eventually became the object of state cults, they utilized human sacrifices in their religious observance. And while this is true, it must be noted that this is now a thing of the past, only worthy of credit to the Dark Ages. The successor of Obazolua the Conqueror, Obaesige, a great-grandson of Eware the Great, enjoyed good relationship with the Portuguese that he sent ambassadors to the King of Portugal. This relationship perpetuated active trade in ivory, palm oil and pepper throughout much of these times with the Portuguese and Dutch traders, for whom it served as a link with tribes in the interior of West Africa. It also profited greatly from the slave trade. There is evidence of native currencies in use successively at the time, in the form of copper, brass and bronze manillas as well as cowries, which point also to good trade relations with the North African Savannah kingdoms, who got their cowries from Persia and the Maldives, probably. Take it or leave it, the kingdom was already flourishing before the arrival of the Europeans. And just like any other empire in ancient history, the contact with the Europeans significantly impacted the economy and the riches of the empire, that we know. And so much so, a series of exploits by the great kings of the skies, gods or godlike in their own rights. Edo Risiagbon, the cradle of black civilization. Empires rise, empires fall, just as any other of yesteryears, but the immortalized power of old remains fresh.